Hello friends, how's it going? Welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to covering the reveal trailer for Resident Evil 9. I'm so glad they finally revealed it. Earlier in the showcase, they actually kind of like did a little bait and switch where they said, "Oh yeah, we'll reveal it when we're ready." But I guess that was like 15 minutes. But yeah, but without further ado, I want to break down the trailer and just share my thoughts about it and see how it correlates to some of the leaks I've heard about Resident Evil 9. But yeah, without further ado, let's get into it. And so first off, we start off with a walkthrough of an FBI office, and this is where we're introduced to Grace Ashcroft, and we learn pretty soon that she's the daughter of Alyssa Ashcroft from Resident Evil Outbreak. This is really cool. We haven't seen this character in a while, and it's kind of cool that Capcom is finally just bringing back, characters after decades. Through this cutscene, we learn that she's investigating a series of deaths from an unknown disease, which are primarily located at government offices. Gotta love Resident Evil and their political disease plots. They just can't help themselves. And so I'm not sure, but I think that map might be Raccoon City in the corner. I might just be, totally wrong about that. It could just be a normal city, but it'd be kind of cool if it was. And so once she gets into his office, he mentions that there's a new body, and he needs her to go to the scene of the crime, which is at the Rumwood Hotel. And we get a quick few glimpses of her last time there. It doesn't look pleasant, and we also learn that unfortunately Alyssa was murdered, which is sad day for Outbreak fans. However, we do get a few quick glimpses of her, so at least we'll get a couple scenes with her before she dies. And then we also get a glimpse at some creepy dude in a hood, and I assume he's the antagonist we'll be facing off against, at least in this section of the game. And by the way, the hotel looks so creepy. It looks like this part of the game will probably be more like psychological, kind of like certain certain parts in the previous games where like you don't have any weapons, and you'll just be running kind of like the Beneviento house in 8, and also like Sherry's section in 2. And so we see that Grace gets strapped to a gurney upside down when she gets there, and it looks like she also gets injured somehow. There's like a bandage around her, wrapped around her. And after this, we get a few shots of a city, and we see some missing persons posters. I'm pretty sure they've all been kidnapped by the hooded guy because we hear him giving a monologue to presumably Grace, where he says he's been searching for her and that she's special. So I assume, he's been kidnapping those people to like test them, and then Grace ends up passing whatever the test was. And then we get to the biggest bombshell of the trailer: the ruins of Raccoon freaking City. Finally, after like 20 years, we're coming back to Raccoon City. I don't know why they haven't done this sooner, but I'm just glad. I'm glad we get to finally go back and see all this. And it's so cool just seeing, the massive, like, just the ruins of the city and the massive just crater in the middle. And so some of the leaks that have come out about RE9 have mentioned that it might have an open world section. Man, I hope to God it's this. Could you imagine like exploring the ruins of the RPD and then going over to like the clock tower and finding like the crash subway cars and just going through downtown and just seeing all of like the old just seeing all of the old locations we knew from those games and just seeing them like run down and broken. And so during these shots, we do hear a couple voices talking, and I'm not sure if it's meant to be like a conversation between them or if they just spliced them together to kind of throw us off. But it seems like we'll be meeting quite a few people during our journey through Raccoon City, and we get these awesome shots of the RPD. Oh my god, I cannot wait to explore these, and it's gonna be so cool. Just seeing what's changed. Just seeing like the differences between like the RE2 remake and this one. And then over these shots, we hear what possibly sounds like Alyssa's last words to Grace. That'll be a kind of depressing scene, along with some small girl just talking. And finally, to finish off, they give us quite a few quick shots of just various people and monsters. And so we got this guy on the ground with his throat slit, yelling at us. Whatever the hell this thing is climbing down from the ceiling. Hell no, I do not want to fight that. I'm going to run from that. And this also looks like there's a statue in the background. I assume we're probably going to be solving the puzzle with that, as we go through this house or whatever this is. And then we got the hooded man suffocating someone. Maybe he's like, an FBI agent that accompanies Grace to the hotel, and then he gets killed and Grace gets taken. We see an infected cop, which I thought he was a zombie at first, but it kind of looks like he has like the plaga in him. He's kind of like choking. And I'm not sure what to take from this shot. Maybe it's like, Grace's childhood. Maybe it's a flashback. We'll see. And then finally, we get a jump scare from whatever this thing is. And I personally think it might be the thing that we saw in the hallway. I'm not sure though. And then we get the title Resident Evil Requiem. So, man, that trailer was great. I like how it really didn't reveal much, but it gave us a general vibe and like atmosphere to expect from RE9. And of course, I'm happy that we're finally returning to Raccoon City and getting a returning character that's not the main four, at least for a little bit. I assume she'll probably die pretty early on. But Capcom, please re-release Outbreak on like GOG or like PlayStation Plus so that everyone can catch up on Alyssa's story. Like that would be so cool if you guys did that. But yeah, I'm really excited for Resident Evil Requiem. I'll be covering whatever else they decide to put out. But yeah, thanks for watching and have a good day. Bye bye.